which was a pretty awesome scene. So, there he is. Well, hi, Chris.
Oh, hey, how's it going?
There we are.
Like that? Okay.
How
So
are
sorry
you?
about that. Had Apple technical problems.
Oh,
Hey, Chris.
Apple.
How you doing?
Good.
Ooh,
Good to see you.
Love your shirt.
Yes.
Nice.
Wish I had one for all of them.
Right? So, everybody, welcome the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Chris Bartlett, who plays Zero in Chapter 6, as we fans affectionately call Space Boston.
Space Boston?
Yes, thanks to Mr. Bill Burr.
Oh, yes, right. Mayfeld. Yes.
It's nice to have a little Boston accent showing up in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
But you're saying, Frank?
No, I'm happy to be here. I'm so super excited. Thank you very much. This is my favorite episode, but there's so much in this episode and so many cool moments and characters that it's really fun to be part of it. So I'm really happy to be watching it with you guys.
Well, we're very glad to have you with us on that.
Was this filmed after you did, I'm not sure what order they filmed the episodes, but had you already done your part in, was episode chapter 1 filmed in order, so that was your first role and then this came after? Or?
Yeah, I filmed these in order. So
Okay.
I did Fairman first, and then I did this one, and then I did, we filmed part of this one first. Then we filmed the Cantina scene from chapter 7, and then we went back and filmed the cockpit flying shots of Zero after those were done, if I remember correctly.
Out of all your characters that you play throughout the series, do you think that Zero is probably your favorite?
Yeah, I mean, just because there was so much to work with, I mean, he had a real personality and a little bit of a story arc or personality arc. He got to talk back to the Mandalorian, or Mando is the coolest character on the show, but then Zero comes in and he's like, my response time is quicker than organics and I'm smarter. I get to fly your ship. I know you don't even like droids. I mean, he's just totally in his face, and I thought it was really cool. And Richard Ayoade did just an awesome job of voicing Zero and really giving him that, Cockney kind of accent and personality.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So we'll start up in another minute. So, but if you have any questions for Chris, feel free to put it to the chat. So I have to ask, the crew you rolled with in this episode is who's who?
I know.
Of television and film. What was that like?
Well, I didn't know Bill Burr was going to be in it. You never know anything until you get there. I mean, I will say that you don't know everything that's going to be happening on the date. Hang on 1 second. I just my dog is scratching to get out.
No problem. Speaking of dogs, how's your dog, John?
Mine? Fine. Right now.
So you're saying that you don't really know what's going to happen day to day?
Right. Until you get in there and sit down and I'm sitting with the cast. So I sit down and there's Bill Burr. I immediately recognize him. I knew exactly who he was. Clancy Brown was in full makeup. So I didn't recognize him except for, I accidentally pulled into his parking spot because it said parking for CB, and they said just park over in over there. And I was like, okay, fine. And I was like, oh, they even made a little card for me. That's cool. So I got in, and then he came in, and I was like, I recognized his voice, but I couldn't place his face because he was in full makeup, And then so I just introduced myself, and then he goes, "Oh, I'm Clancy," and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I think I accidentally parked in your spot. And he goes, oh no, if it was open, it's open to anybody. So he's a super great guy, very nice. But anyway, and then, working with, I think, Natalie. Yeah. From, Harry Potter and Game of Thrones, of course she was in full makeup too. And I just saw her as she was just such a cool character and person. She was, ready for anything, and she was messing around, and she was, kind of spooky. And we just had a great time, talking. And then of course, Mando, he's always not a lot of personality,
Speaking of spooky, this episode aired on Friday the 13th, and it had that horror feel to it. Was that? Do you have any insight as to was that intentional?
Oh, I'm sure it was, because I believe so. Deborah Chow directed my cockpit scenes, because there's always like 3 units going on at a time, and so she was direct me in the cockpit, and then when I was doing then on the prison ship, because I was always in the cockpit on the prison ship. I think that was Rick Famuyiwa, if I remember correctly. We'll find out here in a minute. Anyway, I think he was doing that. So I apologize if I'm wrong there, but and then also in the scene in the docking bay, that was with Rick as well. So yeah, it would have been Rick. And there's lots of little things that I'll share when we watch it that were just made it,
One of the things I loved about Gallery was seeing how all the directors were so collaborative on every episode. So it's nice to see that sort of camaraderie. And I think Frank mentioned this the other night, that there was an article with Deborah Chow saying that she was actually going to miss that with Kenobi, that with everybody being so involved with each other.
Yeah, what's cool is, Dave, have you ever met Dave Filoni or seen interviews with him? He is the same way in real life. He is just a really laid back kind of guy, but really the best kind of gatekeeper for Star Wars, at working with George and learning from George. He's just a real gentle guy who he'll sit down and we'll just start talking about Star Wars. He's not talking about like, this is what I want you to do. He will just be talking about Star Wars, and that feeling of Dave trickles down to everybody. The directors are all like that. Jon Favreau is like that. The crew is like that. I mean, everybody is a fan. Everybody is laid back. Not laid back in the sense of like, oh, we're on vacation, but laid back in that like, hey, we're doing. We're going to do our best, and we have this all planned out. Part of that comes from they have it all planned out. As you saw in the gallery, they have they do animatics for the entire show before we shoot it, so everybody knows what they're going to do. But just the personality is the people that you work with and the directors is just so enjoyable. And I think they found a team of directors that really work together well like that.
It's going to be very interesting, especially we talk about this all the time with season 2 throwing in Robert Rodriguez into the mix. That's going to be a lot of fun. I think that's it was a nice surprise for the fans.
I think things that I don't know. You hear a lot of rumors and stuff, characters and stories and directors and stuff like that. And so I don't know exactly about all that. I don't know about, Robert Rodriguez, other than I've heard rumors and stuff, but so I guess, we'll see. I'm a fan too. So we'll see in the fall, what things are true and what things were just rumor.
I can't wait.
I love Robert Rodriguez. I mean, he's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, didn't mean to put you on the spot. I apologize.
That's fine.
Chris, we have 2 questions from Ashley for you.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and one is, how cool was it to play a character with Moss from the It crowd voicing him?
Well, when I'm filming, I'm just doing my voice. So that was done in post. And so, you know, I didn't know who it was going to be until after it was recorded. But, you know, so when I'm on set, I'm just doing a gravelly British sinister voice. But when I saw it with Richard's voice, I was like, this is perfect. It's such a cool marriage of, you know, bug-like, but also, you know, I just thought that he did such a great job with the personality as written for Zero. You know, he was, like I said, he was supposed to be have a Cockney accent, and to have a you know, his attitude was really like, I'm better than you. I mean, I'm a droid. I'm programmed and you know, this way. And so his voice, I felt like was just really cool. Now I hadn't seen the It crowd, so I wasn't familiar with his I didn't even recognize his voice. And then when I went and when I saw the credits and realized it was him, I was like, oh man, I got to go watch more of his work. So since then I have, and I just thought it brought a lot to Zero.
A follow-up question is, she has to know where you got your shirt.
Oh man, you know what? I apologize. It's one of those like short run kind of shirts but it wasn't made by the crew. It was made by a just like an online company. I'm so sorry, I can't remember the name of it. But I'll send it as soon as I get off of this and I check my tag. I'll send it and post it in the thing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So why don't we start the 10-second countdown and get into chapter 6? How's that sound?
Now that sounds great. Now where do we start? Do we start just Disney Plus hitting play, or do you skip the intro? Or
We do the intro.
You do the intro, okay.
So the Disney Plus play and play.
So Disney Plus just hit. Oh, what about the recap?
We do the recap too.
Okay, good. All right. So you let me know when you're ready.
Okay. So let's start the 10-second countdown with 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, play.
Click. All right, volume's kind of low.
Volume's kind of low, yeah.
I do remember John.
Oh, the second Kubaz of the series.
Yes. Lucasfilm Limited. I always get chills every time I see that logo.
I still do, yeah.
I love the new intro with all the different masks.
Right.
So dope.
And it's new but familiar.
Yeah.
Right.
The whole series is like that. It was such a thrill to be in this hangar with the Razor Crest.
Was this a set or was it the volume?
Well, in the volume, it's like half set and half volume. So there's ship parts, there's engines, there's crates, there's smoke coming up, there's sparks, and then there's also the volume, which is all the stuff in the background. But even when you're there, it's unmistakable. It's really cool, yeah. And then to be able to work with Boone from Sons of Anarchy and everything else, that was really cool.
Yeah, I was about to say they did a lot of makeup job on him.
I don't think we've ever really seen a hangar shot like that. Well, you know, the Rebel
Rogue
in
One.
Return of the Jedi we've seen a few, but it's not like the Rebel Alliance getting ready for battle. It's just gritty and
Yeah.
more just the essence of Star Wars, I think. The stuff that's happening that we never get to see.
Right.
We had a question. Chris, what was your thoughts on Ludwig's score for Mandalorian?
Oh gosh, it was so different. Totally not what I was expecting, you know. And then, you know, when we first watched it, the very first episode, I was like, wow, it really feels like a spaghetti western in space.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I felt like, wow, it was such a risk to go so different, but yet again, it totally, you know, fits with the series.
Oh, right.
It's organic and it's dark and you know, I just love that it's not over synthesized as well.
I saw a quote today that he said that the Mandalorian has no facial expressions. I'm his facial expression through the music. That was pretty cool.
Oh yes, yeah.
And I know that, you know, a lot of us have said many a times that we've always loved Star Wars, but The Mandalorian reaffirmed our love even more so.
Sure. It was like a reunion almost, going back to A New Hope, because so much of it is familiar. And so much of it is stuff that we always wished we could see but never imagined. You know what I mean? Like you have these, you know, this Mandalorian, you always, you know, playing with your figures and stuff, you always wonder like, oh, you know, are there more Boba Fetts, you know, or, you know, in our imagination. But all these stories feel like stuff that we imagined playing with our figures in the backyard in the dirt or whatever, you know. I mean, that
and that's what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Essentially.
John even said, right? We're just really playing with action figures with their life size.
I loved what he was talking about in chapter 8 of Gallery, talking about him and John taking the characters that we had the leftover figures and all of a sudden brought them to the forefront.
Right, the fringe figures that you only see for a second.
Right.
Dave asked Dave asked what it was like working with Bill Burr.
He was low key, I think, because he wanted to really do a good job. I mean, he's been, you know, in the media, you know, in his comedy specials, you know, bashing Star Wars and stuff, because he admits, he said, you know, I wasn't into it when I was younger. I kind of missed that, you know, I was a little bit older. But he really is serious about doing a good job and not coming off as like, you know, this super comedy kind of a character. But you could really see the mantle of the responsibility of Star Wars to fans, you know, falling on him when he was working. So that was really, I really admired that.
I gotta say, I live about 10 miles from Boston. I've lived here all my life. To hear somebody with a Boston accent in Star Wars, it affected me more than I thought it would.
Oh, really?
It's a great feeling that, you know, a Boston accent is canon in Star Wars. That type of thing. It's like,
that's so neat.
I love it. Really.
Yeah.
So
this was my favorite. Yeah. Sorry, this was my favorite part of the entire season. Was I'm in the cockpit, I'm flipping switches and pushing the buttons and doing the levers and everything. I mean, it's just like, you know, when I was 8 years old in my cardboard box with all the buttons I'd drawn on there and everything. It was just a dream, such a dream come true. And there's awesome. Real cockpit. I'm in a real cockpit. That what you're looking at right up there is the real thing. it wasn't green screen or anything. So it was totally practical, and you didn't even have to pretend.
They showed that in gallery, maybe not your scene specifically, but they showed them inside. Yeah.
Right.
Just the that's really cool.
Yeah.
It's a lot. I would imagine it's a lot easier to pretend when you have the real thing.
The whole thing. Yeah. Okay, now you're gonna see something here in a minute. When Zero comes down the ramp, right here, notice I'm looking at them while I'm walking down. So that was super, super scary.
Oh, yeah.
Because, you know, a droid wouldn't look at his feet.
No.
Right. He has sensors or whatever, you know, knows where he's going. So, first of all, the ramp was slippery. I couldn't see where the bottom of the ramp was going to be, but I wanted it to feel like a droid who's, you know, in command of his surroundings. And,
Is that direction?
that was a challenge.
Decide where you go down?
Oh, here we go. Such a moment. That was so great. Anyway, so Mando at this point still can't trust droids. I don't know if he really ever gets to trust droids. You know, there's what we find out with IG-11. You know, one droid can be reprogrammed, you know, but he can't change his whole, it's my feeling, you know, he can't change his whole, you know, opinion of droids just on one.
No.
You know, but, yeah, but anyway. Yeah.
How's the visibility in the helmet?
Oh, it was great. I could see fine. It was a little bit cloudy, but you know, there's plenty of light and you can see. There's also 3 little slots that are right between the eyes that were my little windows as well. I could see really clearly out of those.
Did you have was there any discussion, or would you have any information about your character, that droid? Did they say, was it based on one of the droids in one of the video games? I can't remember exactly what I was thinking. Like, it was some type of assassin droid that this character reminded me of, but I don't remember which game.
The background of Zero is he is an updated RA-7 droid. So if you're familiar with RA-7, that's the Death Star droid. So okay. He's a newer model. You know, you notice he has the triangle kind of mouth area. He has the bug eyes, and that he's just a newer model, a lot more advanced. He's got some upgrades. But you know, the way that I played him, I've said before, is you know, like a praying mantis. I sought out, you know, praying mantis videos and watching how these bugs move. You know, they have a head that's similar, but they have such a robot-like motion to them in that their different body parts are separate or isolated, their movements. And anyway, that's how I came up with his motion.
And that was something you took upon yourself through
yeah, because it was just like he's a droid bounty hunter. So I was like, okay, that's like C-3PO mixed with Boba Fett in terms of you know, possible motion and possible attitude. The attitude was similar to Boba Fett's, but his motion could not be like 3PO. 3PO is so, you know, scared and, you know, what's the word? He's just so nervous and all the time and you know, is worried about being appropriate and everything. Where Zero had to be really a sinister. He's a killer, you know, nothing like 3PO. So I just was thinking about bugs. You know, he looked like a bug, and then I was just going over, like, you know, what kind of insects, you know, have a cool motion. You know, I looked at flies, you know, and then I looked at praying mantis insects, and that was really, I just watched a ton of those to see, like, you know, I mean, if I was costuming as him anywhere else, I have a whole set of animation that I would do. You know, we just see a little bit of it here in the show, but you know, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I really like that because it's, I mean, even a praying mantis has that. I mean, you talk about a killer. I mean, that's when I think of praying mantis. It's killing
a killer
usually, right?
I mean, after mating, it eats its mate, you know, and chews its head off, and so thankfully I didn't have a mating scene in this.
Yeah.
So awkward. But the you know, watching the gallery, you know, there's a major revelation about my legs in the galleries. Oh, watch, this is so cool. He's such a great pilot.
This is awesome.
See,
Drops him.
his response time is quicker than organics. I mean, they're bouncing all over the ship, you know. Interesting thing about this as well is, you know, when they told me I'd be flying the ship, I was like, you know, in between shots is your time to rehearse. So you know, the cameras are always rolling. You have to assume. And so in between shots, I'm still pretending I'm flying. You know, I'm hitting buttons. I'm, you know, flying like this, you know, going like this. And they're like, and John goes, "Hey, Chris, we're going to have you pilot the ship via Scomp Link. So you're just going to kind of jack into the interface there on the side of the ship, and that's how you fly the ship." And I was like, oh man, I had so many, you know, kind of stuff, you know, stuff I was doing. But anyway, it was fine. I still wanted to push all the buttons. So they said, you can still push the buttons. That's fine. Cause I was going to be, you know, very boring in the cockpit if I couldn't do anything but just sit there with cruise control on, basically.
So many times in your life you're going to be able to, you know, fly a ship that has like light speed right in front of you.
Okay, I'm really glad you brought that up, because when, you know, you're in the volume, I'm sitting in the cockpit. It's all totally practical. Everything outside the ship, you can't see any seams or anything. You just see space, and they're controlling the space, so it really kind of feels weird, like you're floating in space. And I'm doing my line, jumping to hyperspace now, and they cued hyperspace based on when I said it. It wasn't like I had to time what I was saying. So it really felt like, you know, like Spencer, if you're like punching the accelerator now, you know, like in your car, the car starts moving, and that's exactly how it was. It felt so real. All I had to say was jump into hyperspace, and if I delayed it at all, it wouldn't do it until I said it. It was so awesome. Just really.
You must have been geeking under your helmet at
Totally.
that point.
You know, you have to stay professional.
I know.
That's as close to hyperspace as you get. I mean,
I know.
Mark Hamill and Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher never saw light speed like that.
That's right.
Like
That's
the way you saw
right.
it.
I mean,
I asked Joel Aaron about from the Clone Wars, what was his favorite connection to Star Wars? You know, making that show, and it was hyperspace, because hyperspace is so iconic that when he drew it, when they animated it, that felt like Star Wars the most. Wow.
Nice. That's a great point. It really is so iconic to Star Wars, and if they had done it differently on the show, it would have been a disconnect. But you know, you know, when you're doing also when I'm doing the Scomp Link, you know, I'm jacked into the controls of the ship, you can still see the sticks are still moving, because I'm controlling,
Yeah.
via this way.
That's
It's
great.
magical. Yeah.
That's so, it's fantastic.
What do you think of these guys?
Like they're
They
awesome.
remind me
didn't
of,
think
they
they
remind me of
looked-
Cylons.
It
Right.
didn't feel Star Wars to me initially.
They initially, one of the early concepts of these security droids, because these are New Republic or Republic security droids, they were initially supposed to be 7-foot 3PO protocol droids.
Oh wow.
So, but they were going to have those eyes, that eye bar, that light bar.
Mhm.
So if you imagine
Okay.
3PO, but like a huge bad guy looking, I mean, it was really weird. I mean, I would have totally gone with it, that would have been cool. But these guys, I think, feel a little more sinister and
They look like they'd be protecting a prison of a maximum security flying
Right.
prison.
yeah, exactly. And you'll notice in their design, they have a lot of, in the design of their legs and their joints and stuff, they look a lot like, oh shoot, Rogue One.
K2SO.
K2?
Yeah, sorry, yes, K2SO.
Yeah.
That
I hadn't thought of that, but yeah, absolutely.
you'll see later when Mando rips off its arm, you'll see it up close, and that was a practical arm that looks a lot like K2SO. Matt Lanter.
Yeah.
Well, look at that handsome rebel.
Great cameo. Great
So
cameo.
cool to see him.
It took me a second. I didn't recognize him immediately.
I thought it was such a fun surprise
Yeah.
that he was included, being given that he's Clone Wars royalty.
Yep.
So in these scenes, are you around because you're doing you're filmed in the ship? These
Right,
scenes being
so-
filmed. This this could be a whole different day. These are being filmed.
Yeah.
You're not that. You're not even.
Yeah, you could assume that this would be a different day. Yeah.
Okay.
Just like regular TV shows that are being filmed. I mean, it's a totally different set, all the same characters,
Oh, Matt Lanta.
I love the fact that, I mean, you could definitely tell, especially in gallery, that, the directors and John and Dave were like, they were all in their element and wanted to give the fans as much connection to every aspect of their particular childhood as possible with these deep cuts, as John would like to call it.
After watching gallery, when you say that they did this, they're doing this for the fans, you get the sense that they're doing it just as not in a bad way, but just as much for themselves.
Mm-hmm. Did we lose Chris?
I think we did.
Oh. I hope he comes back.
I want to see this part.
Oh, there he is.
Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. Yeah, internet pooped out for a second.
Oh, good. I thought I insulted you. So.
Right. I just rage quit Mandalorian viewing. No, I so I'm still buffering here, but you guys. Oh,
Oh, this floating big droid. It reminds me of something you would see in like the Jawa sandcrawler.
uh-huh.
It was, wasn't it?
It was.
New
That's
Hope.
right.
Oh my God! I was completely like pulling that out of the air. That's awesome.
Yeah, that is, and I think, and somebody in the chat will know this, I'm sure. I think that is the I thought it was the R1. I thought it was the predecessor to R2D2, like the R2 droids. I think it's an R1. I could be wrong.
Yeah, they'd be really
The one in A New Hope.
Dalek, yeah, they remind me of Daleks.
Jeff is blaming Spencer for Chris's internet issues.
I take the heat for everything, so it's just the nature of the beast.
Sorry, did you guys have a question? I just froze for a second.
No, I'm getting the blame for your spotty internet. That's all.
Oh yes, it's your fault.
This episode showed us that you can have. There's always been talk of like, let's do a Star Wars mafia movie, a Star Wars horror movie. Like, where can we put Star Wars? And this had that kind of horror feel to it, and I really thought it worked. This is one of my favorite episodes.
I really did too. Like you said, both mafia movie, but also horror movie. I mean, Mando stalking Bill Burr was so graphic, so impactful, I thought.
Yeah. Very well done.
Yeah. All right, I'm back online. I'm going to try and catch up to where you guys are.
Okay, Mando is breaking out of the cell.
Got it.
I can't read my... Can you get the timestamp for me?
Yeah, it's 23:54.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So we're really up to you.
Okay, 23.
Yeah.
I know.
Oh, here comes the arm.
Right, there you go. So very K2SO like.
Yeah.
Yeah, this set was beautiful. I mean, you walking down the hallway and it's just like, wow, you don't even have to pretend. This is totally Star Wars.
I like the blast doors.
Yeah. 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 Thanks.
Like, this episode, you wanted more of every character.
I know.
Every character, you want more from them. You want to know what happens to them.
Exactly.
How was it working with the animatronic child?
As real as you can imagine. I mean, his eyes moved, his mouth moved. Look at, so like, I mean, what you're seeing right there is exactly what I saw.
That's
he's peeking around the corner, his eyes are blinking, his hands are moving, his ears and his head's moving. I mean, the puppeteers and the animatronic puppeteers were so talented, and also had to coordinate all, as we're seeing in the gallery show. They had to coordinate all of their work. Man, it was so hard to stand up in that cockpit and still look like a robot. I mean, it was so cramped in there. Plus the blaster that I was using weighed about 30 pounds. It was really heavy.
Oh, wow.
It was a real World War II Webley flare gun that they also built, just like Boba Fett's blaster in Return of the Jedi. I don't know exactly how much it weighed, but it felt like it was, 20 pounds. It just felt really heavy. And as a machine, you don't want to look like you are having any effort. He's a machine, so he can lift and, and so that was something I was thinking about the whole time as well. So we just, tried it a few times and got it right. But
how's the helmet? Is weight wise for you?
What's that?
The helmet, how what is that like weight wise?
Oh, it was very lightweight.
Okay.
It was like a little bit more than a stormtrooper helmet if you've worn a stormtrooper helmet.
Okay.
But there wasn't like excessive padding or anything, but it was super comfortable. Legacy Effects did an amazing job making it all lined inside, and it was really comfy. Hugged my head. Something you don't want to have as a robot is if you move your head, if you move it too fast and then the helmet, kind of has to settle. You don't want that. Yeah. You want to look, and that's what I told, when I worked with them to get it to fit really snug. So if I moved quickly, it would all move at the same time. You don't want to look like a guy in a suit. And so they were able to, line it and pad it and everything so that it fit real snug and felt really good.
Legacy did a bang up job with everything.
Yes, they did.
Were there eye slots?
Brian,
see, or was there?
Oh, look at the legs! Great shot of the legs there. What was your question? Sorry.
Were there eye slots cut out so you can see, or were those eyes like one-way mirrors?
They were. Sorry, are you at the same part where we're playing hide and seek?
Yeah, sure.
I'm just past that. I'm looking at Clancy right now.
Oh, okay. Okay, got it. Yeah, I'm just seconds behind you. So, in the eyes, they were a little bit cloudy. You could see through them you could see shapes and you could make out people's faces and stuff. But in between the eyes, there were little slots, so I could look through a lot like the grate here on that Clancy's looking through, or that Mando's looking through. So I could see in between as well. So I could look out straight, or I could see this way. Either way, it was better than 3PO.
I read about that in Anthony's book. How he had through the nose holes, basically he had to figure out his bearings. Is that the same when you were in the suit as well?
The little black dots in the eyes is all you can see out of.
Oh wow!
And they're little tubes. They're about as thick as a pencil, and so it's very, very limited. But you can't focus on what's inside the helmet because you can see what's inside the helmet too. You can see lights a little bit, but you have to focus on what's outside the helmet so you don't get claustrophobic.
What was it like working on Lego Masters when you do that episode?
Oh man, so much fun. The builders were so excited to see 3PO, and I came out in character. So their reaction when they first see 3PO is really very genuine because they hadn't seen 3PO before, and so when I came out and was talking to them and everything, it was very genuine. So they had no idea the droids were going to be there, so that was really exciting.
That's incredible.
And Will Arnett is hilarious. He is doing improv the whole time, and so I just went along with him, and we were, going back and forth. And so you didn't get to see everything that we did, but I kept it all in character, all appropriate to the character.
That's awesome.
But it was so much fun. The set was really cool and everything. Back to Mandalorian. I think we're coming up on the scene where Mando is stalking Bill Burr's character.
Yes.
And and they're all separated. I really like the mystery of the relationship between these two. You know, they don't really say, you know, was there some kind of romantic connection? Were they just playful, or was it like, you know, what was it? And I really liked that they kept that a mystery.
I think one of my
More
favorite
hide and seek.
episodes is when he hunts Bill Burr. So cool.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yes. Yes. Did you say Batman?
Yeah, just like that.
Yeah, I felt very Batman. Like, yeah. Oh, here he comes. So Zero's motivation here is he's seen the holographic message from Grief Karga. He realizes that there's some kind of bounty that Mando's protecting. He also got a reading somewhere on the ship. He got a reading that there was they saw the child earlier. But he was up in the cockpit when they were having that, when they were down in the cargo hold and they saw the child. So he wasn't aware of that, but he got a reading that there was organic life on the ship, even though everyone was gone. So when the child pops up, he's like, oh, he puts two and two together that Mando's protecting a bounty, and that it must be this child. So he, as a bounty hunter, realizes he could cut out the middleman, so to speak, and he could steal the bounty. And I think that's what he's trying to do here. That's right. Yeah.
I love how the child just puts his hand like, what?
Right. Yes. Yeah. That was a great little moment too. Yeah. He. So Zero is disintegrated in a sort of way.
Yeah.
One of the funny parts of that is the guy, Mike Manziel, who's the puppeteer one of the puppeteers for the child, was standing outside of that shot, and I'm supposed to fall onto him, and he's supposed to catch me, but he's crouched down, and I'm supposed to just totally go dead, and fall over. And I just felt so awful because every time it was like this awkward, catch, but I'm like laying on him and probably pinching him and poking him, with my parts and everything. But he was such a great sport about it. I had to fall on Mike many times during this episode, and not on purpose. There's a couple of accidents that, Mike was a good sport about it, and such a talented puppeteer as well.
Have you had a death scene in any other work you've done?
All my deaths have been on The Mandalorian, and I have, two deaths. One of them is Zero, and the other one is the RA7 droid in the Cantina, which I just wanted to be clear, I do all my own stunts. There was no stunt droid involved. And it was really fun because that was a lifelong dream come true also, to be a stunt man or stunt droid. And so to be able to do those and work with Ryan Watson, who's the stunt coordinator, it was so fun and also a little painful, but it's the job.
Yes.
And we're here to tell a story and do the job. People don't really want to know, if it hurts or not.
I love this.
Price of Fame.
I love the fact that Dave said, "Do I really have to do this?" About being in the cockpit. That's all.
Yeah, John was insistent. He was like, and I was there while they were filming all those shots, and they rolled in as they showed in the gallery the X-wing body that was on its way down to Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, and I saw them turning it around while I was there on set, and them climb in. Deborah Chow, bless her heart, she hated this. She did not want to be on camera. She protested, and I was like, oh, I wanted all three of them to do it because they're regular people. They're not going to overact it. They're totally low key, so much like A New Hope.
Right.
I just felt like they fit so well into that X-wing pilot, X-wing cockpit, and their demeanor and everything was so like what we see in A New Hope, like, red leader going in, it was just not overdone, and that was perfect.
Matter of fact, and going about business, and
yep, they have a job to do for the rebellion or the Republic, I guess, at this point. And that's that they played it perfect. It felt like. See a lot of humanity in Mando here with the child.
Such a good episode.
Yes. Also, I felt like this was a surprise that they're all alive.
Yeah, it was. I definitely.
Right.
I thought they would be all dead.
Oh no! It also left a lot, for potential if they ever escape. So, which would be pretty awesome. Because that crew is just incredible.
Yeah, I love this crew, and I love seeing all the concept art at the end.
Yes.
By various artists, but Brian Matthias, who is the designer of Zero. I've been in touch with him, and the very first day that I went in for the fitting, I saw his artwork of the crew, the concept art of the four. This one right here. I'm so glad you get to see it in big format here at the end of the show. But that's what I saw, and I was like, wait, I'm gonna do that guy. He's so awesome looking.
Nice.
So I was just so giddy at that point. But I had to get all that out of my system, for when we're on set. Otherwise, like I said before, it is a big responsibility to bring Star Wars to an established audience, and you want it to be believable and not like you're having a fanboy moment. You just have to keep that inside. That's why I'm glad I'm wearing a mask, because
Right.
inside I'm like,
But talking to you these 2 weeks that you've been on with us, you just get the insight into playing a droid and playing these characters. Just what goes into it is just to bring it to life so that it is seamless. So that for us watching it, it is just, you're not taking out of the experience of the show, which, like you said, if you shook your head and the mask moved with it, it would have.
right.
All the little things that you do to make this the experience that we need it to be is amazing.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad you appreciate that, because it is something I'm really trying to make it really, because it's very different from a human character or an alien character who is very organic. And you're trying, like IG-11, he is very robotic. He has to be. But I do like how he's kind of clunky, and every droid kind of has their own personality. C-3PO is like I mentioned, he's always worried about being so appropriate, and he's always nervous and jerky, because he's scared, and he's, there's all these things that are happening that he shouldn't be, he should be organizing, social events. He shouldn't be, in the middle of a battle. And but you know, Zero is very cool. He, you know, he's a bounty hunter. He's used to you know, being cool under fire, because he's a hunter. And so, you know, and then the Cantina droid, you know, he's very different too. He's not like 3PO. He's a protocol droid. He moves a little like him, but you know, he's not. He's doing his job. His job is to be you know, he's basically his protocol is, you know, serving drinks or managing the bar or whatever. So but you know, we do see him get in kind of a surprise moment when the client is shot, and then there's the big shootout. And
Right. So we got a question from our member John. If you could play only one character from any of the movies or the series, who would you choose and why?
Only one character?
Yes.
You mean a character I haven't played?
Either or.
No.
Oh gosh. I guess. I mean, Boba Fett has stuck with me since, you know, I was a kid. Sorry, I'm just plugging in my phone here.
No problem.
And you know, that he would have been a character I would love to play, but you know, multiple actors have already played him. I mean, I couldn't have designed a more perfect character for what I would like to do than Zero. You know, I have had experience doing droids in the Star Wars universe, you know, but Zero is like Boba Fett in that he's, you know, cool and sinister. And so I you know, I feel terrible that, you know, Zero had to be disintegrated, but, you know, he's just, I love him so much. I hope somehow, some way, someday, you know, in a galaxy far, far away, he
Rest the crew's alive, so the revenge episode next year, I'm sure the hero back. Tell us about that.
right. No, I'd love to see him again. He's a great character, and I loved playing him very much.
So as a collector myself, how did you feel when you finally saw your Funko Pop?
Exactly how you would feel if you know, you had a character. I couldn't believe it. I thought it was, you know, maybe a custom figure or something. But unbelievably, a whole life of imagining and half a life's work, you know, coming to culmination in not a character that is someone else's character, you know, like 3PO, but my own character that I played, you know, is just like you would imagine. Like, you woke up on Christmas morning and Star Wars has been real the whole time. You know, that's what it felt like.
That's incredible. And the detail that they did on that figure is absolutely amazing too. The sculpt.
Yeah, and there's been like Boone, a friend of mine in Singapore, is a 3D modeler. He does his account on Instagram is Skylu 3D, I think, or Skylu Props. I apologize, I'm murdering that. It's anyway. He has fully modeled Zero as a 3D model, both in figure size and then also in life size. And he just did it based on screenshots, you know, just by pausing, you know, freeze framing and studying and he just did an amazing job. And thankfully, I'm able to build my own Zero right now. I have half of them ready. And so now we're working on the legs.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so at a convention someday in the future. Also, sorry, Tim Sullivan, who is also a fellow C-3PO costumer. He also was very instrumental in creating the parts as well. So the convention sometime in the near future, if you see Zero walking around, it might be the real Zero.
That would be awesome, especially if he shows up in Rhode Island sometime next year. That would be pretty incredible.
Wow, that would be incredible. I know. I'm really looking forward to coming to Rhode Island, and that's. I'm glad that it's still on, and it's in November, right?
Well, I think they're doing June and November next year. So,
great. Okay.
To try to make up for the fact of this year. So, but I did hear that you guys were coming back for one of them. But it'd be exciting to get you up in this area.
I'd love to. I'm really excited. It's a huge convention, and I'm really excited to meet my friends and my friends and fans. I'm so glad that the fans are in the show, that it was received so well, because it's like I said, it would be nothing without the fans. I'm just so grateful that people enjoy the show, because it was a real honor to be part of it. It has been
appreciate that.
Real honor.
It's nice, also refreshing to see. I don't want to call it filler media per se, but it's storylines outside the Skywalker saga that adds more to the entire universe, that makes it that much better, for everything.
Right.
And I think that's what I'm really looking forward to with the future of Star Wars, is seeing what the next one is going to be. Not just with Mandalorian stories in between and whatever movies they do in the future or anything of that nature. It's mind-boggling to think that, we were excited years ago just to get a new movie with Phantom Menace. In the fact that it's everywhere you can see it is Star Wars. And you can never imagine that it's gotten as big as it has gotten. Because growing up as a kid, you always thought it was huge as it was. And now as an adult, you're like, how much bigger it is. It's like being a kid all over again.
Yeah, I mean, think about when we first saw Star Wars, when it was just called Star Wars. There were all these characters that were like, well, where's that guy from? And how did this guy, end up here? And how did Darth Vader become like that? And so our whole lives, we've been thinking about the Star Wars universe and where people came from and what characters, and then in addition to that, we were making stuff up with our figures as kids, making up our own stories. Yeah. And so in our minds, the galaxy was even bigger than what we were seeing in the film. And then, with a Mandalorian, and with a Mandalorian, and John saying, this is really just us pretending with our action figures, telling the stories that we would just make up while we were, pretending, that's why it feels so relatable, because they're just like us.
We were talking about this the other day. One of my actual favorite scenes of The Last Jedi is the kids playing with the figures at the end, because it reminded me of me playing with the figures and make pretend I'm Luke Skywalker standing up to the Empire kind of scenario. So it was like relatable, that bring us back. It's like, wow, that's like a commercial we would have seen in the 80s, like, with Kenner figures. It was like bringing us back home. It felt comfortable,
Right.
It's just incredible. And I'm very, very excited to see where everything is going. And, I was very happy to, read those articles and tweets from John, saying that since a lot of the principal was already shot, that they're on task for October, that they're full steam ahead in post. So that's pretty awesome.
It is awesome.
Yeah. One thing that Spencer said that hadn't occurred to me, but for those of us who have grown up with Star Wars since the beginning, with this, the Mandalorian comes out right as the Rise of Skywalker is the end of the Skywalker saga is ending. So over 40 years of the story is coming to an end, and for those of us who've lived with that, it was a scary thought of what comes. Like Son said, what comes next? And we get the Mandalorian, and does it not feel like the best Star Wars? Like it has the feel. So that for me, I never really thought about the importance that the success of it, because it was just so big. It was so good. I never thought about what if it wasn't? What if this first project of what comes next?
Right.
It was it. It wasn't. It was like, man, did they ever, any letdown of, looks, the story of the Skywalkers is over. What are they going to do?
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, they blow it out of the water with this.
Yes, yeah. I mean, Jon Favreau, after Iron Man and
Jungle Book.
Yeah, Jungle Book, and also the other work he's done. I mean, I never doubted for a second that this would be, such a well-received kind of a show, especially that first day when I walked on set in the volume as the ferryman out on that frozen pier surrounded by a frozen wasteland. I was like, this looks like the scale of on scale of Game of Thrones, as far as these look like vast locations. And if it looks that real to me, it's going to look even more real on screen. Right. But so Mandalorian takes place 5 years after Return of the Jedi. So it's a time of chaos where it's like the Wild West. There's no government. There's no empire. The Republic is trying to rebuild itself. Or the rebellion is turning into the New Republic, I think. But yeah, I think it's a perfect time because there's so much mystery in that time.
Absolutely. And, we always say that Star Wars is generational, and it's fantastic that, everybody has their own Star Wars per se. But for those who grew up with the original trilogy, the only information we had of after Return of the Jedi was the Zahn books back in the day. It was like Heir to the Empire and all that, the EU. But now we have Mandalorian. It's like, okay, now we get to see what happened after Jedi and link everything together. Right. And that's like, to me, that's one of the coolest things, amongst there. And then seeing Filoni's universe from the animation become live action. It's it's pretty incredible. And one of our favorite things that we talk about is, if you didn't watch the cartoon and you're first seeing the Darksaber for the first time in the last episode, you're not knowing what it is. But if you watch the cartoons, you're like, oh my God, they actually made that live action. That's incredible.
I think you're right. But I think if you hadn't seen the Clone Wars and you saw this Darksaber, you already know about lightsabers, right? Mm-hmm. And now you have this weird new kind of lightsaber, and why does this bad guy have it? I think what's great about Mandalorian is you can watch it and not, I'll give you an example. My agent was not a big Star Wars, watcher. As a kid and growing up, he didn't really pay attention to Star Wars. And he told me just today, I was on the phone with him, he said, what I love about Mandalorian is it's such a cool show. Watching it, I love watching it. He said, I don't feel like I had to go back and watch all the Star Wars and all the cartoons and all the animated series and the movies and everything to appreciate it and to love it. I just started watching Mandalorian, and I'm in love with this show. So I think a lot of people probably feel that way. But to your point, Spencer, when people have paid attention and have been, watching the animated series and everything, it's just a huge bonus and a huge hug a big Wookiee hug from Dave Filoni. I feel like when you see those things come in, into reality. So I think it's just a bonus to those of us who've stuck around.
Oh, absolutely. And it's an absolute pleasure and honor to be able to talk with you about this, and yourself being a lifetime fan and now being part of the entire universe.
Oh, thank you so much.
It really is, because it makes us feel, those of us who are fans, the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, as we always used to like to play, we're connected to you and being able to talk to you about your experiences and that. And it enhances our experience. So thank you very much for making yourself accessible to the fans and to our group and to everybody. It's definitely a big treat for us.
Oh, I appreciate that, Spencer. And I love talking with, just like Dave Filoni, like when I said before, he sits down and we just start talking about Star Wars. He initiates that conversation, and that trickles down through the whole production. And that's how I feel as well. Like, I just want to talk about Star Wars. I just want to talk about aliens and ships and planets and, bad guys and good guys. But I appreciate so much you saying that. I love to be included with you to talk about this stuff and to share a little bit more of the magic with you guys, because it was so magical for me to do season 1, and I'm really looking forward to the fall. So thank you very much for having me.
Oh,
I appreciate seeing I was watching you as you're going through your scenes light up and really excited to talk about it, because I started my website in 2011. I've interviewed many of the original trilogy actors who they didn't grow up with Star Wars because it didn't exist. They were making it.
Yeah.
But what you get is, that was 2 days 30 years ago. So what are they going to really remember? So
right.
I think, what if I had that opportunity to be with them 30 years ago, like where we are right now, when I see that light that I'm seeing with you. So that is what I'm really, I get, is to see how much you love this process and how much it meant to you. It's wonderful, Chris. I really appreciate it.
I hadn't thought of that. Thank you so much. Yeah, I would have loved. Can you imagine being able to talk to, like, I don't know, Forlom or Bosk, even Jeremy Bullock back then. Sadly he's not as active anymore. But he was always so fun to talk to about this stuff.
For 30 years plus, he was out there meeting us and talking to us, and he was the best.
Yeah, him and people like Peter Mayhew, or I'm so glad Anthony Daniels is still visiting and talking with people, and is so active and shares so much. I mean, his book is awesome.
Oh, it's fantastic.
He remembers so many details and has put in so many details that it really gives me the feeling, like you're talking about, that to hear what it was like, you would think he was being interviewed, whatever it was 40 years ago.
I went to his release in New York and got to hear him talk about the book, but I had to. It was a kind of book. It's like, wait a minute, this is an option. I can get this as an audio book with Anthony Daniels reading. I have to get that.
I know.
How could I not? You have to hear his voice as he tells the stories, and that is so cool.
Yeah, I got to get that, because I'm reading it right now. And when I get done reading it, then I'll get the audiobook and listen to it, because he's really special. Yeah.
Do you think that your work that because you mentioned last time about working on the mannerisms of 3PO with Anthony, affected your performance as Zero?
I will say that some of the things that he does, he has in common with 3PO. So the way he stands with his hands ready, where it's not down at his side, when he's paying attention, when people talk, he looks at them, those were things that I carried across, but his walk is different. He's more advanced. 3PO is, I don't know how old he is at this point compared to Zero. I don't know his birth date or his, his integration date, but he he's a new model, so he's a little more fluid. But yeah, I did try and keep something. So you'll watch, when Zero approaches for the first time and he's introduced, I have my hands up, and that's like an homage to 3PO. Because they're droid brothers at this point.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, but they're very different characters. But I tried to connect them in a way that was familiar, but Zero's new.
That's absolutely fantastic.
So cool.
Yeah.
So we're gonna jump on gallery. You're welcome to join us if you'd like to.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry, I have to run. We're getting ready for family coming in tomorrow. So, but I appreciate the invitation so much. Which one are you going to watch?
Oh, we're at episode 6, so we're going matching up. So this one is which one is
that
this one?
Process?
It is Process, correct?
Process, yeah.
So we did
Yeah.
practical
I mean,
last
all
week.
of them are practical. I don't know if this is the one, but in one of those, you'll find that John is explaining the world of George Lucas that George has created. And he said, this is George's world. George created this universe. And he said, just as if you went into a Frank Lloyd Wright house, you wouldn't start moving all the walls around because you want, you can change the fixtures and pipes, but you wouldn't, you want the place to feel that it still has a connection to the original genius. And when he's doing that explanation, he says, this is George's world, just like when if you're in a Frank Lloyd Wright house, and it's showing a footage of George and 3PO, footage of and me as the RA7 droid, and it's really by and paying attention and might not make the connection, but for me, seeing that connection, that like it's the same, but you still feels like George's world. So that's in the Process episode. Maybe it is, but anyway, it was really just when that happened, my heart just melted. I almost got really emotional, about it. It's really it is a special production to be part of, and I'm so glad I could share it with you.
Thank you so much. And thank you very much for being not for the start, but taking the time to come and chat with one, which is a favorite for a lot of us.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. Well, get ready for episode or chapter 7, and you watch. If you watch the RA7 droid in the commotion there, if you slow it down, you'll see that he falls twice.
Okay.
Right.
I would make note of that for us. Look for that. Awesome.
And one of them was on the stunt pad, and one of them was on the hard floor.
Oh.
That didn't feel good. Star
That's
Wars.
right.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Chris. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Spencer. Thank you, guys, for all you're doing.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. You too. Thank
All
you.
right. Take
Bye now.
Good night.